Hi boys and girls. Okay, today we are going to be just experimenting with watercolors, but I want you to try a technique that you can see in these examples that I did over the summer, where we're going to try to go from a darker to a lighter and maybe even change colors, okay? So these are just some that I had fun with. You can even leave a little bit of a white line in between. It kind of gives it the feeling of like an agate. I don't know if you know what kind of rock that is, but there's a rock that has these like lines in it. So I thought we would try that. And this paper that we do today, we're going to use for another project, but this is just our experimenting, okay? So today you're going to need a messy mat, your paper. We're going to have a piece of scratch paper also, in case you want to see what a color looks like before we put it on our paper. You'll need a water dish and obviously your paintbrush, okay? Now, the idea here is we're going to paint wet on wet. So before you paint anything, you're going to wet that area. So, ooh, I had a little bit of green paint in there. Kind of maybe make a wavy line that's wet, okay? And then dip your paintbrush in water. And I want you to water down whatever color you're going to use. We want it to be really light, okay? So I'm going to start with, I think this is fuchsia. It's like a really beautiful red. So I'm going to put some over here, and I'm going to add a little water to it. Actually, I'm going to add a lot of water to it because I want it to be super light to start with, okay? And then I'm just going to follow that wet line. Just go right along your wet line with your color, okay? And as you do it, you'll see that it'll just slowly kind of fade across, okay? Once you have it a very light version of that color, now I want you to take some of the actual color, just go along your top edge and just, oops, I need a little bit more, and just watch what happens. So you're going to follow that line, and you'll see that it will look like it is fading. I like to bring it up and make that get smaller. So start bigger and then get smaller as it comes off the page. So it should look like it's going from a dark pink, if that's the color you start with, and fading off to white, or you can make it change to another color. So if I want it to change to blue, here I'm going to water down a little bit of blue here, I could make it turn into the blue. Just by taking this blue and going right along this other edge, watch what happens. Okay, ooh, and I like that. Now, if you don't want it to blend quite that, if you don't want it to drip, you can actually run your brush along and kind of mix it right in the middle there. Okay. Now, I don't want my wet to touch this one because then I know my colors will run into that one. So I'm going to go right along here, but I'm going to leave a little teeny white space in between. And then I'm going to try to lift my brush and make it get smaller on the end. Okay. Now I'm ready. I'm going to do more pink. Ooh, I've got a lot of water there. What should I do if I have too much water? Yeah, I hope you said, when you dip in the water, if you push your brush against the edge, it'll put most of that water back in there. If that's not enough, you could take a paper towel and blot it on the paper towel. I don't have one right now, so I'm just going to blot it on my mat here. But that'll help pull some of that extra water out. And I don't have enough paint there, you can see, because that's such a pale pink. I'm going to add a little bit more. Here we go. Oops, a little more. Ooh, that was a lot. More than I expected, wasn't it? Well, happy little accidents, right? It's fun to experiment. I'm being really careful not to touch it into that other one. All right, so you're gonna just experiment around. I want you to go from one side of your paper to the other side of your paper. You're going to cover the whole paper, okay? You are done when this whole paper has lines on it, okay? The whole thing is covered from one side to the other side, okay? Then it goes on the drying rack. I probably forgot to mention this. I did forget to mention this. What should you put on the back before you even start painting? Yeah, you should be putting your name and class code on the back before you ever start to paint. Something to keep in mind when you're adding colors to colors, you want to pick a color that is next to that color on the color wheel. If I were to do red and green, they are opposite each other, and when they touch, they're going to make brown, and I don't want that. So I would pick something that's next to red, which would either be orange or yellow or a darker orange. or maybe a different red, and experiment with that, okay? I could even do orange there and some yellow right next to that. See how that looks, okay? Whatever you want to. And when you are done, you know that we do not want to leave the paint tray like this for the next person. So you'll want to get, sorry, a paper towel and wipe that out before you close it. And we're going to leave these open on the counter to dry. So that way I will know whether you followed this direction or not. And also we want the air to get to these so they dry for the next class, okay? So leave this open to dry. Your water dish gets dumped and rinsed and stacked. Brushes, we just used watercolor, so they just need a quick rinse and put them back in the container that they were in, okay? Or if it's from the paint palette, you can just put it back in there. All right, have fun.